Heath.
I'm gonna fight you.
Oh dear, I have not been training.
Clearly, you have.
Oh well, thanks.
And then the winner gets to be a Spider-Man variant. We're already wearing red.
Yes, we are 2 different shades. Mm-hmm. Is this to debut in the new Into the Spider-Verse movie releasing next month?
Ooh, or I was talking about the game.
Spider-Man 2.
Right.
It's a good year for Spider-Man fans.
There are 2 Spider-Men in Spider-Man 2.
At least 2. 2 confirmed.
Right. Yeah, it is a good year. You know what was also a good year to be a Spider-Man fan? Like every year we've been alive. No, every year some listeners have been alive because since 2002, it's been a great year to be a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, a real renaissance.
Hey, what show is this?
This is Mobius Tubes, episode 87.
Where show is this?
Coming to you from somewhere in New York, recorded on...
Don't dox me, bro.
I
know your IP.
May 27th, 2023. I want to pose you the question, Heath. Are we hipster gamers? Because all the listeners out there tuning into video game podcasts are expecting to hear Tears of the Kingdom talk right now.
Oh.
And we're going to be providing 0.
Right, because we famously were pre-ordered.
Some of us have canceled our pre-orders.
And then just buried those pre-orders deep in our backlog, which we talked about at great length.
Yes, covered it thoroughly.
If you want to tell us how poorly we represent the video game mainstream, you can write to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. We'll read every single email. I like to think we provide a valuable service, and I'm sure our listeners... This isn't the only show they tune into.
We definitely provide a service.
We provide a respite from the Tears of the Kingdom talk. This is your breather. But we'll cover it eventually.
It's
just not right now.
It's this year's Elden Ring.
It's, of course, which we also haven't covered, which is why I asked, are we hipster gamers? We don't talk about the biggest things that release in this industry.
We are. The things that we want to talk about are the crumbs in between the cushions of the mainstream.
The least zeitgeisty games around.
Yeah.
That's what you tune in for this show.
That's right.
How are you doing, Heath? Enjoying the lovely weather?
I've been inside. I've been outside for work reasons, but as soon as I clock out, I crawl under the rock. Have you seen, there's a rock, I can't show you, and we'll get into why I can't show you. Have you seen, there's like a 50-ton rock in some national park? I don't give a crap about national parks. If I ran the nation, there'd be no parks.
Wow.
Put that on my ballot.
A real stance to get behind.
The only parks would be parallel parks because it'd be nothing but pedestrian cars, no rail.
All asphalt.
I am ruining my chances with every tanky hottie listening to this episode. Not that I need their affection. Anyway, so have you seen this big, huge rock in a national park?
No.
This
is in the news lately?
No. Less than in the news. I just saw it on my Twitter feed.
Okay.
Because of where it's situated on the bedrock or whatever. There's a fulcrum under it so that any human being can move it, despite it weighing several tons. Oh. It's huge. But if you get under it, and you could probably clean it, but mostly if you just kind of shrug it or do like a deadlift, it'll go and then it's like, wow, you're such a big man. That's on my list in addition to those big bells in Korea that you can ring.
Okay.
I'm putting together a vacation plan of lifting and banging big things.
Yeah, sure. I guess that just shows the strength.
It's a bell in Korea that you can ring with like a tree trunk size. Go about your day.
Very good.
This is a trip I'm planning. You should be delighted.
It sounds exotic.
About the big things you can bang and
Lift.
break and lift. Hey, but I can't plan that much of a vacation because I couldn't find the power cable to that light.
Okay.
I found the power cable to these lights, but these are fluorescents. So if you were to scrub through this video listener, that's right, you would see banding from the fluorescents, which is really undesirable. So I tried to do all LED, but I got only this one, which just is using, it's a fill light. The keys are fluoros. I couldn't find the power cord. It's probably at work, probably in my car, probably in South Dakota. Shout out to the one South Dakotan listener. And so I was like, crap. Well, okay, I'll just grab a power cable from around the house. I tried the litter robot. That outputs 15 volts. This needs 12.
Oh.
I tried Bailey's UV fingernail polish hardening UV igloo. Not sponsored. That only outputs 13.3 volts. I tried, these guys, I was like, well, I'll just cannibalize one of theirs. They're 24 volts.
How many volts do you need?
12. I need 12.
12.
Yeah.
The dot.
I'm surrounded by volts, but none of them are 12.
Wow.
You know what is 12?
What?
The modem and the router.
Oh.
I can't, we don't go on the internet right now.
What a sacrifice. I realized I did not connect to your Wi-Fi.
In order to bring us light, I had to put us in the dark ages.
Yeah, in the Stone Age.
Right. So when my internet comes back, I will be able to sign on to my, what else is in the news? My Naughty Dog Plus account. I don't know. Here's where you, how was your week, Chris?
I've had a good few weeks. I've got a story to tell you. Here it goes. So back when I first built a PC, I would hop onto r/build a PC on Reddit. And once in a while, I'd see these posts I'd find so amusing because you got to feel so superior, where the fresh novice PC builder would be like, oh man, I'm such an idiot. I've been using my PC for the past 6 months with my monitor plugged in to the wrong display port. So I was using my Intel integrated graphics off my CPU instead of my discrete graphics card.
Oh.
So they've been just neutering their performance in games for the past 6 months unknowingly, not leveraging like their big, expensive, chunky, powerful hardware they purchased, just due to ignorance.
I don't have to worry about that because I'm SLI, right?
You could plug it into the wrong port for sure. You
All
would
my
notice.
ports look the same.
If you know which one is your graphics card, you're fine.
But I have two graphics cards.
Besides the point. Anyway, this has never happened to me because I'm such a smart guy. But you get to laugh and get this sense of superiority. I had a similar thing happen to me recently. It's not quite as egregious, but I've realized for the past 6 months of using my fancy new television to play video games on, I have not been using HDR correctly at all. So it's my first time having an HDR TV, high dynamic range, that makes the blacks inky black and the brights fluorescent.
Inky white for a sick octopus.
Yeah, just you get a big contrast in the color brightness, and yeah. That's what the intention should be. However, lately I've been booting up games like Resident Evil 2 and Ori and the Will of the Wisps and a little bit of Hitman 2, and I was playing around with the HDR settings in game, and universally they would be kind of underwhelming. I would prefer to switch HDR off and go back to standard definition. With Resident Evil, it was looking all washed out, and I'm like, this isn't the viewing experience I was promised. I was expecting peak darkness immersion in this horror game.
Yeah.
But no, it looks whitewashed. So eventually I realized
Mr. X looks like he's a member of the Talking Heads. That's a reference to, you ever see the music act where the guy wears like a big gray suit? That's what I'm trying to say, is he's wearing gray instead of black.
Oh, I get it now. Thank you for spelling that out.
I'll throw it on the screen.
Cool. All right. At this point, I'm 6 months into this, using this television. I'm fed up. I'm like, okay, I need to investigate this. What the hell is going on? It turns out Microsoft, they have an app you can download right from the Microsoft Store. It's free. That lets you calibrate HDR and then things should look a lot better. So cool. And now here begins this hero's journey I had to go on. Once in a while, I'll hear the criticism that people prefer playing on consoles to PC because consoles are so much more plug and play, no need to tinker with anything. PCs, you need to troubleshoot and dive into weird, obscure settings. And that's usually not the case for me. I've been playing on a PC for a long time. Steam makes things so easy. You just download and you're off to the races. Here's this nightmare scenario I uncovered. So I want to download this free app from the Microsoft Store just to calibrate my HDR properly. It turns out this app is exclusive to Windows 11, locked behind that newer operating system.
Okay.
I'm on Windows 10. I've had no reason to update. Super happy using Windows 10, but here I finally have a reason. I say, okay, Microsoft, I'll bite. Let's do Windows 11.
You win, Bill Gates.
You win. I want cool colors on my television. And here begins the process. So I just hop on to Windows Update. I'm like, I have a very beefy PC. Surely I can update right away, correct? I must meet all the prerequisites. No, it turns out I was missing 2 prerequisites before I could update. Obscure settings I needed to toggle in my BIOS. No big deal. I'm a software engineer. I'm familiar with the BIOS. So I restart my PC, hit the F5 key, F2 key, I forget. But I load into the BIOS, I switch those 2 settings. I'm like, here we go, ready to update. Restart. All of a sudden, my PC no longer boots anymore. So apparently one of those settings made it so my PC no longer could locate which drive my operating boot system was on.
It's the C one.
It's the C one, obviously, but my PC was being dumb. It couldn't find it. So I untoggled the setting, was able to load back into the computer. It's like, okay, what's going on here? It turns out my C drive that has the operating system on it was using a legacy file format.
I was going to say SMMTP, but is it like NTSC?
That sounds familiar. It was an acronym of some sort. I won't bore you with the details.
LMNOP?
But yeah, apparently since I installed this operating system back in 2015, it's a legacy version. I needed to reformat this hard drive. So, okay, I can do that. I start to mess around with that, go into the command prompt, of which I'm no stranger, and I'm going to reformat it. Oh, it turns out I don't have any free partition space on this hard drive.
You're going to delete all your goodies.
Yeah, so now I'm out of space. I need to create a new partition. It became comedic at some point, like the number of cascading changes I needed to make just so that I could download this free app to make the colors look nice on my TV.
Inky black.
Yeah. So eventually I do repartition the hard drive, which lets me go into the BIOS to change a setting, which lets me reload the computer and it can find my operating system so it can then update to Windows 11 so I can download the app so I can change the color settings. And despite all of this legwork,
at the very end, you're like, it's like, we've installed Edge as your default browser, and then you just you brick the system. It wasn't worth it in the end.
Right. Yeah. Despite all this legwork, it was worth it. The colors are awesome.
Okay.
HDR is really cool.
Wow. I want to come see.
I
will come see.
Yes, you will tonight. You'll see my decorations finally.
Yeah.
Long story short, I should have done this 6 months ago. I've been missing out, but now Ori and the Will of the Wisps looks really nice. Maybe HDR is even a bigger jump than 4K, I think. It's underrated, perhaps. Cool setting.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, I'll give you some hands-on. That's my Chris troubleshoots his PC story. Admittedly, the small masochistic part of me kind of enjoyed the whole process. If I didn't enjoy that kind of thing, I wouldn't be a very good software engineer because I'd kill myself. Because troubleshooting obscure. It's funny. No matter what arcane issue you're having on the most obscure piece of your computer hardware, someone on Reddit has posted about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You ever run into the forum posts that are like, I can't figure out what's going on, and then in a subsequent post, it's like, oh, I got it. But they don't divulge the solution. They're just like,
oh yeah,
figured it out.
They come back with an edit, figured it out, and then no solution posted.
What is it? Yeah. That's what I run into.
Yeah. Well, I hope listeners maybe found something to relate to in that story.
Still, now I'm worried that my ports are the wrong ports.
I've introduced anxiety. I'm sure you're fine.
I was so ignorant. I thought it's HD. It must be fine.
If you were plugged into the wrong port, Mass Effect 3 would probably be like 15 frames per second.
It's not. Maybe if I'm hammering the VTOL the wrong direction, it is. But no, it's fine. Hey, speaking of Mass Effect 3, you want to talk about that now?
I would love to hear your update.
Right.
We didn't get one last episode.
Jumping back into Tachanker. Everyone's favorite Krogan homeworld.
How much have you played recently?
I truth be told, I put like an hour in last night.
Okay, so this was a somewhat limited update.
Just to do my due diligence. I jumped back into Tachanka. The Krogans are saying, hey, this place... Well, it took its prestige tour in the form of Eve looking out the space window and saying, look at all of our beautiful ancient civilization before we just nuked ourselves into oblivion.
Right. The planet is a nuclear wasteland.
The Tachanka homeworld is a conflict between the Krogans, who are just unga bunga caveman with high tech weaponry. They are always trying to kill each other, and their whole deal is violence, right? And then the Solarians, who are the Rick and Morty 300 IQ watchers that sterilized you boys with the genophage.
Yes.
Every Krogan birth, like 1 in 1,000 is all that's viable. And the reason that the Solarians did it, I mean, I know that the Turians also did it, but the reason Solarians did it was because if the Krogans were allowed to reproduce naturally, they would conquer the galaxy.
They bred like rabbits.
Yeah, and our pledge of allegiance would be to the Urdnot in the United States of smashing. So you go to the planet to cure the big virus, the genophage. And then the CEO of the Solarians says, hey, we put in a backdoor, talking about your software hacking.
Right.
We put a backdoor solution. You can try to cure the genophage and look and typey and look like to Urdnot Rex. Oh, I'm doing your bidding, but it'll fail. And we don't need to give the Krogan a leg up that they will surely exploit after the war is over. And what is Shepard Shepard's like, this seems dishonorable. And the Solarian's like, yeah, but you need to do it though. So we're riding in the space bus down to the homeworld. Eve looks right at Shepard and says, what's troubling you? And you can say, the Solarian narc told me to sabotage the dispersal of the cure. It's basically Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Okay.
You know, and Andrew Garfield climbs the tower and cures all the lizard people. Spider-Man fan, Chris. So I'm too much of a coward to reveal the narc plot yet.
Oh, you don't come clean.
I tell Eve, I had a hard time sleeping last night.
So you're keeping that in your back pocket just in case.
I did.
Okay.
And then she does it again. She's like, Shepard, what's bothering you? And I go, no, I don't know. I have some space allergies.
Space indigestion.
Basically, yeah. So you touch down, and this is, man, the camera really, characters can totally die in this mission because the camera zeroes in on Rex and goes, and Rex is like, thank you for doing the right thing, helping me, Shepard. On my home world, Shepard will mean hero. And then he turns and the camera follows him and he's like, my name is just blasting the husks.
Yeah.
My name is Urdnot Rex and this is my planet. And basically just full hero.
Very gung-ho.
Schmorden gets the same type of treatment. Schmorden's like,
This is, of course, Morden's replacement.
yes, Morden, who died in the suicide mission of Mass Effect 2 because I don't know, it was a Tuesday when I played it, so he deserves death. So okay, and then why are we touching down on the Tachanka homeworld? It's because we need the Krogans' help to save the Turians' homeworld, but the Krogans won't help until we cure their sterility. Bye, Bailey.
See ya.
You don't want to hear about Krogan sterility?
No. You know what? Hold on.
I knew that was a trigger.
You got her
You know
attention.
what sterility I need to talk about is bovona trachs. I need to talk about bovona trach sterilization procedure and why that's a clinical problem.
You can't let your germs get into your bovona trach, right, Chris?
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
It's a safety issue. It's an infection risk. Okay, I'm sorry. Never go into a master's program, okay? All right, bye.
Bye, Bailey.
Bye, Bailey. So how are we going to kill the Reapers? Thank goodness there's just like a big worm like in SpongeBob.
Oh, yeah.
It starts with a W. Like most things in Krogan land.
Oh, it has a name.
Yeah, what is it called?
It's not a thresher maw,
Only
is it?
It was the maw. Sorry.
Oh, thresher maw.
Yeah, it
Okay.
ends at a W. Right.
Yeah.
So the big space worm, right? How are we going to defeat the Reapers? We're going to trigger the space worm and it'll attack the Reapers.
Cool plan.
Why did Shepard say, "Oh, well, we've never attempted something like this before" when we killed Sovereign?
Not with a giant worm, though.
No, but he's like, "I've never been this close up with a Reaper. We've never been
okay.
tried." And I'm like,
Seems a bit
there was a
strange.
whole game about it. I don't know.
I guess Shepard wasn't into flesh fighting Sovereign. It was like the fleet.
That was the space fleet. Yes, yeah. So you trigger the big worm and it basically suplexes the Reaper,
Right.
which is fine and great. And then you get to the big elevator, and Schmorden's typing, and he's like, I am able to upload the cure, but the progress bar keeps like going backwards, and that's when I don't even think I was able to be like, that's weird. I think I had to come clean and say, oh yeah, your president told me that the cure.exe has a backdoor. And Schmorden goes, you kept this from me? And Shepard's basically like, snitches get stitches. And Schmorden's like, a fair point.
Oh, wow. How reasonable.
And yeah, it was very laissez-faire. Schmorden gets in the elevator and says a line that shakes me. He's like, what we do here, Shepard, will mean more than an eternity, or something important. And I was like, is he about to die? And sure enough, he goes up the elevator.
Yeah, that building's on fire, right?
Well, yeah, it's cackling because I don't know, the Reaper stepped on it in a weird way, and now it's going down. But Schmorden uploads the cure, and then looks in the camera and says, basically like, Schmorden out, and then the tower blows up.
Yeah. Impactful scene.
I didn't think it was gonna explode. I didn't think that was the last time I was gonna see Schmorden. Is it? And surely it's because I held my tongue when Eve twice was like, "Fess up."
I forget if that is a guarantee, but I think in the majority of cases, whoever distributes the cure does die.
Oh, really? It has to be Schmorden, or it has to be Morden in the canon.
Yeah, if Morden's alive, he's the one.
He bites.
He's the one
He bit
piecing
the
out.
dust in your game.
Yeah, I mean, in my original playthrough, Morden was the one dying there.
And was he more reluctant about the cure?
This is
'Cause he
going 10
invented the
years
cure.
back, but I think he was pretty on board.
Yeah. Okay. Rex is over the moon because now he gets to bang as many ladies as he wants. You get an email. You get an email.
Oh, yeah, you
later
do.
That says producing offspring should be fun. And then what happens? It's like you also get an email from the Solarian CEO that says you've done a bad thing. We are definitely, the Krogans are absolutely going to stomp our ass after this war. It's equivalent to like how much after World War I, Weimar Germany was just toast. And with the hyperinflation and the reparations from World War I. And it just led to World War II.
Right.
It almost feels like in Mass Effect 4, now that I caused the Krogan cure, there should be like hyper-aggressive Krogans taking it out on Solarians, and no Solarian should trust me.
It's a galaxy-defining consequential decision you made.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, but there's one big problem. Like, you make that decision. How does BioWare account for all the players who do use the secret backdoor and keep the Krogan celibate?
It's a big spider web. That's why Mass Effect 4 can't be like generations ahead.
Yeah.
It's got to be like all these Krogan eggs are about to hatch. Time to make a Solarian omelet. Let's go. It needs to be like that because it can't be. The Solarians can't already be just like near extinction from a Krogan whatever.
That's why they tried to dodge the entire question itself by setting Mass Effect Andromeda in a different galaxy, so they don't have to account for all of these variables.
Right. Yeah. Mass Effect 4, you're kind of opening a Pandora's box.
Right, which is why my expectations are set very low.
Okay. Well, because also BioWare is not the BioWare of old.
Seemingly not.
Right. So your arm hurts with how much Rex is high-fiving you, and then you turn away to get a break, and then the Turian Paladin the Primarch is high-fiving you and saying like, we are both gonna put so many war assets in your circle table on the ship,
right?
And you're like, this is great because the Solarians promised like, oh, we'll send so many scientists if you botch this cure dispersal, but I've never worked with that Solarian guy.
Sure.
So I didn't trust him nearly as much as I trusted like Rex.
Oh yeah.
And also I think the Turian guy would have been pissed with me. So this was kind of like the easier of the moral dilemmas I'm going to have to face in this game.
Yeah, you've kicked the consequences far down the road.
Did you ever consider not curing the genophage?
My Renegade Shepherd sure did.
Okay.
He sabotaged it.
Tell me more if you remember.
Well, let's just say,
Chris, if you played Pajama Sam, you don't think that I won't like pop it in and be like, I love the rock and the minecart.
Okay. Well, here's what happens. You get hit with consequences sooner than you might think. You don't know the answer to this. I would estimate you're like 30 to 40% of the way through the game right now. Maybe.
Feels like barely.
Somewhere around, I'm going to hazard a guess, the 70% mark. I was on a routine supply trip to the Citadel. And just there to, I don't know, visit the hospital, turn in some side quests.
Yeah.
And I was going through a loading screen, maybe taking an elevator or something, and you get this unexpected cutscene trigger where Rex comes like raging onto the Citadel,
from his blue balls,
confronts Shepard. He's like saying, "I know what you did," and you have a Shepard v Rex 1v1 on the Citadel, destroying shops, mass destruction, and you have to put Rex down.
Oh, yeah.
As consequences for not curing the genophage.
Naturally, yeah.
It was a rough scene, yeah. Had no idea that was in there because, of course, I'm not a psychopath. My first playthrough, I did the noble thing.
Yeah.
I cured them. And then 10 years later, I got to see what the other side of the coin, and it is ugly.
Well, yeah, it is the noble thing to cure the genophage because imagine the parallels in real life if someone spoke critically of a certain race being more violent. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
it's
And also, you're straight up lying to the entire race of Krogans. You're being very underhanded if you were to distribute the cure, but not really.
yeah. Oh, you would feel so bad on Commander Shepard Day on their planet.
Oh, yeah. Awful.
So that's your update.
That's an impactful update.
I mean, there's other things that happen, right? As soon as the cure goes out, Shepard's like, I'm going to take a nap. And then you go to sleep, and then it's another dream sequence of the boy
in the forest?
the forest.
You love it.
Shepard's like looking at the boy who's just idle, just posing, and then he turns into a flame, and Shepard wakes up, and it's like, and Liara has to show up, even though I've not shown her any affection, to say, had a bad sleep, and what does Shepard say? He's like, if we're gonna win this, we need to do it together. It's just
It's so heavy-handed. It's the Hollywoodification, you said, of Mass Effect 3.
Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1's Metacritic score in my mind plotted against number of in-game hours. It shot up during the Batarian Asteroid DLC.
Sure.
Took a dive during the Moon lunar mission. And then like narrowed it. It stayed the course and landed in the what am I gonna give it right now? It's
On the spot.
It's in the 90s.
Pretty high praise.
Fine. It's in the 90s. I'll give you that. Mass Effect 2 shot to the moon naturally because it called back to the moon mission in Mass Effect 1. And then Mass Effect 2 just stayed awesome until the VTOL mission, and then it was a nosedive. But then it scored higher than Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 3 is not reaching the same heights as rapidly, and who knows if we're going to hit that 90s.
Sure.
Because this is like... I'm loving the manifestation of all my life's choices.
Yeah.
But the goofy Hollywood glitz and narrative devices, these dreams, this Liara arc.
Yeah. That's tainting it a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see how it all turns out.
Very good.
That's Mass Effect 3.
Love to hear it. Thank you for the update. I can provide an update. Let's see. I've played just a couple things since we last spoke. I finished one new game, as I mentioned earlier. I went back to Ori. I played Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Beat it.
The classic sequel.
Loved it. This episode the games I'm providing updates on right now.
2.
I'm about to talk about Ori and Doom Eternal again.
Oh, God.
So this episode might as well be March 2020 because both those games came out then. I get to games eventually. Okay, this is, of course, the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, a game I've talked about once on this podcast. Big fan.
Bash.
Bash and Dash. This is the Metroidvania from Moon Studios, associated with Microsoft, I think maybe in kind of Microsoft published it, so they funded the game. Let's see here. It's a great sequel. I recommend it to Ori fans. Recommend it to any Metroidvania fans. I will give just a little bit of pushback on a lot of the discourse around this game that I've heard, were like people saying, "Oh, it's an improvement in every sense over the original, almost to the point where it replaces it." And I would push back against that. I think both Ori games have merit, and
it's a little bit of a Limbo Inside type of deal.
I like Inside a lot more than Limbo.
Right.
And I think both Ori games stand equally tall.
Ori's like a foot tall.
Yeah, Ori's real small.
But the game.
Ori is this little woodland spirit. So the hallmark of these games is just standard Metroidvania fare, but in this achingly beautiful like forest environment. They've got pretty short run times. They don't overstay their welcome. Lots of emphasis on the traversal. Once again, the calling card of this game, Bash, the ability you get, returns. This is Ori's capability of any projectile coming your way. If you click the button, hold it, you'll like pause time, and you can basically bash off of this projectile.
You parry it.
You parry it, sending yourself flying in one direction and the projectile repositioned going in the opposite direction. So you can use it for your own locomotion. You can use it offensively to send projectiles back at their senders. It has such great game feel. I think because it takes that, since it does do that time distortion, really slows it down. You really feel the impact of the bash, just the way that the animation works. Super satisfying. And then, or you can do all sorts of stuff. You can double jump, you can dash. Yeah. Moving around this game feels equally satisfying as it did in the original. So far, so good. It looks just as good. The combat, huge improvement. That was my main criticism of Blind Forest. But the sequel, Will of the Wisps, it feels so much better. You are no longer this kind of pea shooter, just mash the button, send off these little pellets of sparks that barely damage foes. No, now you have a robust suite of abilities. You've got a big hammer. You've got a very fast, agile blade. The combat in this game is more front and center, and thankfully, the mechanics have been improved to make the more prominent role of combat justified.
There's even a style meter.
There is no Devil May Cry SSS ranking, no. So far, it sounds like, hey, Chris, if the combat's way better, why isn't this game just
Hey, Chris,
a market improvement?
If the combat is so amazing, what was the rest of your question?
Yeah, why don't you universally recommend Will of the Wisps over Blind Forest? This game, I think, is a little bit more generic than the first one. The first game had a couple unique pieces of flair to it that gave it its own identity. I was very surprised when I booted up Will of the Wisps to see how it handles saving. Will of the Wisps is just a super standard auto-saving game. Nothing special about it whatsoever. The first Ori game, I thought this was a really cool innovation. You, the player, have, your standard like energy bar that you have in lots of games, a resource that you manage that you have to spend some to save your game.
Oh, weird.
You can make a save point anywhere in Blind Forest, the first game. As long as you've got the resources to spend, you can choose your save point, which is cool. Like if you're struggling with a very specific platforming challenge, you can decide, I'm going to save like right in front of it so that I can just keep hammering out the attempts. And you've got to be careful. Like if you're using all of your energy to do powerful attacks, you'll lose the ability to save because your energy will be depleted. Mm-hmm. Very few games make saving a resource in the way Blind Forest did. I thought this was a quirk of the series, and they just stripped that right out from the sequel.
Dead Space.
There is no you decide where you save kind of mechanic. It's just autosave. It's just checkpoints. It's like, that's more generic, huh?
It's a bash in the wrong direction.
I'm not going to say it like ruins the game or anything, but it was just a fun quirk of the first game that I was hoping to see return, and it didn't. The other thing was Blind Forest. Like I just said, the combat in the first game, not very fun. The developers, I think they realized that, and so they did not put in any boss battles whatsoever in the first game. No combat encounters like that. Instead, the big challenging climaxes of the game were all these really crazy, chaotic escape sequences. They were like platforming gauntlets that they would put you through. It would be the music would really swell. You'd have to do like this 2 full minutes of perfect timing platforming and then to escape some kind of natural disaster or something.
Yeah.
And that would be the big crescendos of the game. Those escape sequences that I felt were pretty unique to Blind Forest, they're kind of back in Will of the Wisps. They happened a handful of times, but they do feel a bit watered down.
I was going to say, probably one of them is to outrun rising floodwater.
At least a couple are, yeah. So now the big climaxes are just, boss battles, which so many games have. So if you lose the cool escape sequences and you lose the saving, Will of the Wisps, despite being more competent in several areas, feels like the more homogenized game. Like I've played this before elsewhere.
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight. Speaking of the H word, Hollow Knight, one fun fact is Hollow Knight released dead center between the two Ori games. And I can't help but notice the Hollow Knight influences bleeding into the sequel. I hate to just assume, because I haven't talked to the developers, I can't know for certain this is the case, but some of the comparisons are really on the nose.
Bugs.
There's literally this cartographer NPC that you have to seek out in every new region you enter. And once you find him, you can pay him for his map, and then you see the entire layout. It's straight out of Hollow Knight. The other thing is the first game had the bog standard progression system of, you have a skill tree. Okay, you got skill points, you level up your tree. You've seen it happen in a million games.
Yeah.
Skill tree is gone in Will of the Wisps, replaced with Hollow Knight's progression system.
Characters give you certain skills.
You equip spirit shards that you find in the environment.
Yeah.
You have like a limited number of slots. This is, of course, just like Hollow Knight's trinkets system. Yep. It's one and the same. So yeah, it's funny to see, we took Hollow Knight's progression, we took their map system, and this game is much more full of like quirky NPCs you can interact with in this like central hub village area. It's like, wow, you guys not
really inspired.
Not being very subtle about this one, are you? But it's fine. The characters have their own quirks to them. They're enjoyable. Yeah. That was my crash course in comparing Ori 1 to Ori 2. They're both great games. I recommend them. The first one's a little more original, I would say. Also this game, super sad. That hasn't changed whatsoever. It's almost like the people at the studio have this fixation on like misery porn or something. It's just, man, every time you think things are going to start to go better, it's just like, here's some more sad, cute woodland creatures we'll throw at you. Like, we give our main antagonist a tragic backstory. Right when you reach the end and you think, here's where we're going to redeem the antagonist, they just don't. They just make it sadder. Just don't go into Ori thinking you're going to have a cheery time, despite how cutesy it looks. Emotional, draining game. And let me just check these notes. The end game. It does something that I quite enjoy, where for the type of player out there who cares about like completion and tracking down those last collectibles once you've hit the credits, because it's a Metroidvania game, you probably haven't explored every nook and cranny. It does a fun thing where once you complete the last area of the game, it gives you this OP traversal ability that really trivializes exploration from there on out, which makes the final act, the denouement of the game, as you mop up the final collectibles, it makes it a breeze. Because like this last ability you have that you're finally given as a reward at the very end, it just makes everything so easy.
I think Carry On did that.
Ooh, it's a nice power trip, a nice reward, a cherry on top.
I'm not against it.
At the very end of the game. Because at that point, you've already seen 80% of what there is to see.
If you want a challenge, just do Path of Pain, yeah.
Yes, just do New Game Plus, just play hard mode. So I did like that final act of the game where I just absent-mindedly put on a podcast and had a real easy time finishing all the really hard stuff that used to give me trouble, except now I have this extra movement ability that was awesome. Do you have any questions about Ori and the Will of the Wisps?
The third one's going to come out before Silksong?
No, I would hazard a guess Silksong should release first. Because Silksong is allegedly this year. It did just get a delay with no actually firm release date. Who knows when Silksong is coming? But Ori 3 has not been even announced yet. I would be curious to see what they do next. Also, they left the story in a place where it might be hard to pick it back up. It felt pretty shut and closed by the end of Will of the Wisps. Not that Ori is married to its narrative. It takes a back seat for sure. Cool. That's really all I had to say. It was fun from start to finish. It did. Okay, here's a quirk. This has nothing to do with the game, really. It just made me. I'm a huge Steam fanboy. Love Valve. Love those guys. There is a Steam feature that is pretty broken. I was playing Ori. I wanted to remap a button on my controller.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch the bash button to a different part. Unfortunately, Ori, it lets you remap keys on your keyboard, but not buttons on a gamepad.
Oh, weird.
So it's like, that's a quality of life feature. You should have included Moon Studios minus half a point. But thankfully, Steam has a built-in, like you can universally, for all games, remap what a button would do on your controller.
Yeah.
But it's janky. Either I was suffering a stroke at the time I was doing this, or when I was trying to remap the buttons on the Steam like overlay general controller settings panel, I would go in, remap, save, try it out in the game. It wouldn't work. I'd go back in. My settings had not been saved. It would only have like a 1 in 3 chance of actually saving your changes,
Whoa.
which is baffling. I thought this kind of feature would be ironclad coming from Valve's engineers, but no, it was kind of very buggy. That was just a weird tangent I discovered because of Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
I'm trying to think of a game that like I will test that out in this game, but
It doesn't come up very often.
I don't play very many like character action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually default controller settings are fine by me, but in Ori, I was feeling like nitpicky. I didn't like their default layout for whatever reason. All right. Moving on.
Speaking of sad woodland creatures, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I've been hearing good things about that.
It's a good movie.
Now, how hot are you on the previous Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and where does this compare?
I saw 1 and 2, but not the holiday special.
There was a holiday special?
Because they're parodying Star Wars.
Okay.
You know how
really?
Star Wars has a holiday special?
That's infamous, right?
Yeah.
So they did that was like a joke?
It was a joke, but it introduced main characters that then
it's canon.
that have plot relevance in the third movie. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was lost on a couple of details having not seen the holiday special.
I would have never imagined such a thing.
Right.
Continue.
It's it was a good date movie. It was fine. I had one issue that everybody's kind of having an issue with.
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2. They fight a planet.
Yes, I've seen that movie.
Right. The ending of the movie.
Right.
The planet explodes. Main character and main character's father figure, the Blue Man,
Yeah.
are launched into space. Space is hard to breathe, even in Marvel space. Oh no, my space helmet that I used to breathe while in space, it broke during a scuffle. Only good thing that father figure pulls out his little portable hologram space breathing helmet, slaps it on main character.
On Mario.
On Chris Pratt, that's right. A shimmering hexagon bubble forms around main character. Main character's like, but you'll die. And then father figure, Blue Man, probably says a line that's awesome. And then friggin' freezes Magic School Bus style. Did you ever see that episode of Magic School Bus where they go to
No.
space and then the one kid with glasses takes his helmet off and his head freezes solid and everyone's like, oh, it almost has body horror for like kindergartners.
Sure.
That's the end of Mass Effect 2. That's the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. All right, end of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They're in space. A ship is blowing up. Main character had to run back onto the ship to save a thing. I think the same thing that he tried to save the first time. Running, makes a leap of faith for the safety of the ship. Gets held up by debris. Where's his space-breathing helmet? He left it at home.
Oh.
Says the director over Twitter. And thankfully, Space Alien from the beginning in the movie is able to Superman fly out, grab him, bring him back to safety.
Okay.
That's the only issue. Otherwise, it's a great movie to bring a girl to because they will cry at the CGI animals misfortunes.
Oh, I heard there was a lot of animal cruelty.
Rocket Raccoon is the main character of Guardians 3.
Yes,
not Mario.
He gets fleshed out. Okay.
Yeah. Mario is sunsetted. Sorry, Chris Pratt, right?
Oh, I know.
Chris Pratt goes home.
Okay.
Drax goes home. This is the last Guardians movie. We are tying up every bow.
Trilogy.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, good movie. One little issue with the space helmet, and then that was my only movie going experience in the past few weeks.
Very good. I'm gonna down a protein bar.
You should.
But I've got one more game to talk about.
I mean, so do I. But
Oh, cool.
what flavor today?
Today is
Hide that label because we're not sponsored.
I think it's birthday cake.
That's good. That's in the top 3 for bars.
You know this.
I know this. While Chris is eating, it's time for Heath's other segment. I got more free games. Shocker. Oh, well, here's a second thing. So my Xbox Game Pass free trial expires in like a day, which, woe is me. I haven't even touched Deathloop on it. I haven't even touched any of these other games that I was going to touch. The problem is Disney Dreamlight Valley is on the Xbox Game Pass. So if I want to keep Bailey's progress in her favorite game, I need to have an Xbox Game Pass subscription.
Couldn't you just buy the game?
Wait, Game Pass can do a la carte?
I bought Deathloop a la carte.
But your previous Deathloop Game Pass files didn't jump over to the a la carte?
Oh, surely your save file is separate.
Yeah. This is a lot of hours sunk into the farming game. Replayability is poor. I'm gonna have to think about that. Anyway, to conclude the segment, hey, guess what other game Epic Games was given away? They were giving away Death Stranding again. So anyone who really doesn't have Death Stranding is due for it. This, starting yesterday, I think, they started giving away Fallout New Vegas. The best one, debatably. Best story. I enjoyed Fallout 4. So did my brother Seth. But hey, now I can tinker with New Vegas. It's not that old. There's probably mods I wish I could install if this were on Steam, but it's not on Steam. It's on my Epic Games. So we will see how Fallout New Vegas fares. That's all the free games I've gotten. Chris, what's the last game you played? Or do you want me to talk about Dredge a little bit?
I'm here for a Dredge update.
Okay, so the progress metric in Dredge is the relics you've recovered. I've recovered 3 relics. A music box, a key, and a ring.
Do you have any idea how many relics in total there are?
5.
Okay.
5.
So you're more than halfway.
There's 5 worlds. There's 5 relics. More than halfway. Dredge is so leisurely. It's the fishing game with the creepy occult twist.
Elements, yes.
Yeah. I enjoy Dredge so much, and I almost feel guilty that it doesn't have a ticking clock. It has a counter at the top of the day-night cycle tracker that says I'm on day 23. And I immediately flash back to Frostpunk, in which by day 23, you better have generator level 2 plus farming level 3 with a spec'd into the hunter's upgrade, or else your populace will freeze to death. In this game, you can catch one more fish before the end of the night, sleep until dawn, go back out there. I almost feel guilty.
Each passing day in Frostpunk is do or die.
Right.
Where Dredge, who cares?
I wonder what I'll catch today. Yeah. So it's leisurely. Granted, I've come across some more aggressive eldritch beings.
Oh.
There's a character from the Outer Wilds makes an appearance.
The crossover we didn't know we wanted.
Right. It's a blind anglerfish.
Okay. That should have been obvious.
That is swimming around.
I just kept picturing the owls.
It only knows your presence if like its little mods, little ads notice you. So that's its vision cone, whatever. Hey, that game is awesome. There's nothing I don't like about it. I was going to nitpick that the early game is solid, and then it feels like you're already in the late game. There's no middle, because I was getting machine parts and cloth, and I just couldn't find wood. And then as soon as I found wood, I soared through the upgrade tree and jumped all the way up to like the special engine and the special fishing rod. And I feel like I didn't even get a chance to use the mid build.
Yeah.
But now I'm now the final upgrades are still a ways away. So that's my only tweak would be maybe greater resource diversity. So I'm not just stockpiling future upgrade materials while I wait to happen across one pile of wood that would then like slingshot me into the future.
Yeah, it sounds like it didn't give you adequate time to appreciate one portion of the progression curve.
What game comes to mind when I say that?
Well, nothing in particular.
Think about
engine
that.
building games in general?
Well, maybe like Prey. Is there like a gun who's like you can spend your upgrade points and not even have to deal with the intermediate variety of it? You just go straight to pack-a-punch.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, in a way that can be rewarding if you intentionally go without those middling upgrades for a while, kind of like
deliberately
depriving yourself to rush the superior stuff.
Yeah.
If that's a deliberate player choice, that can be kind of fun. But if it just is paced improperly by design,
is that a pacing issue, I should say?
Could be.
If anything. Still, Dredge, it's in the 90s.
Yeah, it sounds like a tiny nitpick.
I love this game. It's lots of fun.
How thoroughly would you recommend it to this guy?
You would find the loop slightly underwhelming.
Really?
Yeah, you would.
I can get on board with like a Skinner box upgrade wheel.
You would collect a relic, bring it back to the collector, earn another upgrade, and think, that was neat. I will put this back on the shelf and not do it 4 more times.
Is this because you think it tickles you a little bit more because you're the guy who's into Wilmot warehouse stuff? Is that an apt comparison, or am I grasping at straws?
Well, Dredge's Wilmot warehouseness is not as solid connect those dots as you may have think. Now, Dredge is more Resident Evil than it is Wilmot's Warehouse.
All right, then can you pick apart where do we differ? Where you love Dredge and you think I'd be like slightly underwhelmed?
Oh, by the time you catch You may like, it's like Death Stranding. I could overload myself with packages, but then as the rain is starting to set in, and I gotta deal with these more BTs now than had I just gone in fewer trips. It's like it's busy work, it's leg work, but you're just in a boat.
I see. Yeah, I came to appreciate Death Stranding, so maybe Dredge wouldn't be a miss for me.
Maybe in just like short bursts. But
Yeah.
if you tried to speed run Death Stranding,
Oh yeah, it took me a couple months to play Death Stranding.
right? Yeah.
I had to pace myself.
So it only gets as much of a recommendation as if it's got a kill switch and it immediately bounces you over to, I forgot the other game that you're going to talk about. Doom Eternal.
Yeah,
Doom Eternal just boots after 1 hour of Dredge and no longer.
gotcha. Yeah, I could do that. Are you done with Dredge talk?
I mean, I plan on beating it. It will absolutely end up in my top 10 list of the year.
Contender for top 5.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
What? Because I've only played 5 games? What are you getting at?
No, I think we've both actually played a lot this year.
Oh, yeah.
Just going over our list.
Watch Case of Golden Idol DLC take the first place spot again.
Have you got hands-on?
I made it to the store page.
Okay.
And the value proposition didn't sell me.
Didn't entice you.
Because I was.
We should pick that apart during our DLC talk.
Ooh, okay.
But before that, for my final game this week, I have DLC to talk about. I went back to Doom Eternal. I wrapped it up.
Woo.
I played The Ancient Gods Part 2 this time.
Oh my gosh.
4 more levels thrown in, picking right where you left off with Ancient Gods Part 1, which I discussed last week.
Right.
And there's not too much to say, except
The gods. More ancient, even this time around.
even older. No, it's cool. So I mentioned last episode where they introduced like 1 or 2 new enemy types, the spirits, big pain in the ass. This part of the DLC, they went buck wild with the enemy variety. No like totally brand new from scratch enemies. They just applied a whole bunch of modifiers to the enemies you knew and love. For example, stone imps. Imps, basic fodder enemy. Now they're made of stone. They can do this almost like armadillo twirling in a ball, come charging at you kind of thing. And you need to dispatch them with a certain attachment for the shotgun. Oh, maybe the coolest was the cursed prowler.
Kidney crusher.
The cursed prowler is a green prowler. Okay. But if he gets you at all, you get this awful status effect where you can't dash, you can't double jump, your mobility's reduced, and the only way to free yourself from it is to track down that cursed prowler and give him a good old blood punch.
Yeah.
It turns it into a game of like cat and mouse, where in addition to your mobility being limited, if you're inflicted with the curse, your visibility is it has this weird like filter applied over it. So you can't see super well, and you're just desperately hunting around for the cursed prowler to free yourself. It's a pretty detrimental effect to have applied to you. So got to be careful. In fact, because it's not too damaging, it's just like it distorts your senses so much that it's kind of like being poisoned. You're taking every precaution not to get nicked by the cursed prowler when they're on the field.
Yeah, I'll run into like a pile of stone imps and marauders and whatever these types names are.
Sure.
Before I get it within 50 feet of a cursed prowler.
Right. Yeah, they're not hard to kill. It's just if they get you, you're in a bad spot. There's an armored baron guy. He's another one there's a very small window of timing where if you hit him right at the right second, you'll do a lot of damage.
Barons are the floating eyeball things?
Those are
Big mouth
cacodemons.
things? Cacodemons.
Barons are big melee guys. They're muscly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like a cost-effective way for them to introduce a lot of variety without doing all the developmental work of creating enemies from scratch. Just add these little tweaks to people you know.
This is the same engine as 2016.
I don't know for sure. Probably.
Okay.
Almost certainly. Why do you ask?
I'm trying to picture what it looks like.
Oh, okay. Here's one fun thing about Doom Eternal I never mentioned visually.
It's all grayscale.
This is much. Doom Eternal is a far more cartoony game than Doom 2016. Visually, like the enemy designs in 2016, they seem kind of like somewhat self-serious, somewhat intimidating, where there's like very vibrant colors in Doom Eternal. Enemy proportions are more exaggerated, less realistic.
When you chainsaw a zombie, doesn't it go like...
Yeah, they give you goofy expressions, and like the ammo pouring out of them is like literally confetti exploding everywhere. Despite how, viscerally gory Doom Eternal is, it almost doesn't register in my brain as violence.
That's like when you saw a survivor getting put on the hook in Dead by Daylight and recoiled, and I said, I don't even see it anymore.
Yeah, so maybe I'm just habituated to it, or it's just so over the top, it's like cleared the uncanny valley of violence and doesn't even register.
Yeah.
One of those two things is probably true. I guess one final little quirk of this DLC is they dialed up the platforming. I never mentioned that 15% of Doom Eternal's runtime is platforming puzzles. They just serve to kind of like break up the pace of the combat encounters.
You like jumping over a toxic pit?
Oh yeah, you'll do some of that.
Oh yeah.
You'll do some swimming around. You'll do some grappling on monkey bars. But what this DLC introduces is your super shotgun. It always had the grapple hook on it, the meat hook. There's now like grapple points in the environment that you can swing around on.
How very Halo Infinite.
Well, here's the thing. Halo Infinite.
You play as John Master Chief in Doom.
Every surface you see in Halo Infinite is grappleable.
Grappleable.
Where Doom Eternal, there are very specific points. Okay. So it's not nearly as systemic. It's not nearly as adaptable. But hey, it's cool to do it once in a while. And Doom Eternal DLC Ancient Gods Part 2 lets you do that. And that's most of everything I've got for you. I'll conclude with, I don't think first-person shooters as a genre often have like the best boss fights in video games.
Tell that to... I mean, Portals was interesting, right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't really consider Portal a first-person shooter. It's a first-person puzzle game. But...
Yeah, you're right.
Halo Infinite is a great example of rather underwhelming boss fights. I think Doom Eternal as a whole has pretty good boss fights given its genre. They add specific mechanics unique to a fight that you need to grapple with, and...
I thought you said it was only in specific points.
Not literally using a grapple hook. Yeah, poor choice of words on my part, but I think Doom Eternal is a cut above the lackluster first-person boss fight I've come to expect. And I'll just leave it at that.
Looking forward to Ancient Gods Part 3.
There is no Part 3, and kind of like Ori, actually, way more than Ori, Doom Eternal, this DLC's ending, wrapped up all loose ends. Does not leave any room for a sequel.
I mean... Watch them pull a Mortal Kombat 1 and make Doom 1.
Yeah, once again, the lore in Doom, super goofy. They could just retcon stuff easily. But, id Software, they released Doom Eternal back in 2020. I don't think we know what id is working on right now. They're probably...
System Shock.
No, that's not them.
I wouldn't know.
I have no idea what they're working on. I don't think they have announced their next
Commander
project.
Keen.
But they've got to be pretty far along. And after this obsession I've had with Doom Eternal, I am so curious to see what they're working on. I'm going to be paying close attention. They make like the best feeling first-person shooters in the business.
Daikatana.
I don't know what Daikatana is.
That's John Romero's other game.
Oh, a reboot perhaps. You've heard it here first.
I don't think it's a reboot.
I'm saying
of the 2000 game.
Maybe they do.
Ooh.
But probably not.
Nope.
That's all I've been playing.
We should take a break.
We should take a break, and we'll come back to you with more great headlines.
I've been playing more Marvel Snap.
Heath, you should have thrown that in before the break.
And we're back.
Fine, we can talk more Marvel Snap.
Well, I'm just I'm ranked super duper, and obviously everything's got a movie tie-in. So the main villain of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is like a new card.
Oh, seasonal.
That gives any card that lacked a special ability. Because you know how your cards have like an attack power, and an energy cost, and a special ability.
Sure.
Much like in what's Witcher 3's game called? Grundle?
Gwent.
Yep. In Gwent. Some cards are just raw power.
Yes.
Right? And they don't have special abilities.
Boring but strong.
There's a card, the villain of Guardians 3 is a card in Marvel Snap that then gives any card that lacks an ability a super special ability.
That's pretty fun. Randomly?
No, you have to go to the wiki to see it.
Oh, okay.
But boy, is it fun. And I'm playing this like a boomer plays Candy Crush now.
So it's like part of your routine.
I'll leave it at that. I mean, well, I spend 10 hours a week driving. So
wait, what does that have to do with playing Marvel Snap?
Oh, I should say less. I'm in traffic a lot.
Heath, don't do that. Put your phone away.
So on to the next.
Here, let's just arbitrarily draw a comparison. Heath, obviously this opinion is pending changes because you have not finished Dredge. Would Dredge or Marvel Snap appear higher on your top 10 games you played this year list?
I mean, like, I've had great moments in Marvel Snap where the best moments would be when your opponent plays a morph, which copies a card in your hand, and the card that it copies is Destroyer, which wipes out all their other. Is the ability? The trade-off is it's a very powerful card that deletes the rest of the cards in front of you.
Yeah.
So you'd only want to use it in conjunction with a Colossus, which can't die, or like an Armor, which protects all of one location.
Okay.
So he cloned my Destroyer and wiped out his entire board, and then goes like in the in-game chat
because he had 0 of your synergies.
He didn't know he was gonna pull that. But even the best Marvel Snap games can't top the meditative flow state in Dredge that I'm itching to get back into.
Sure.
Dredge has delivered more fun per hour than Marvel Snap.
Yeah. Marvel Snap hangs its hat on the fact that it is super low impact pick up and play, easy to fit into time slots.
Right.
Where Dredge is more of a main course.
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So, did you want to touch on any news, or did we want to dive right into
Well, you told me
topic?
if I mention Tears of the Kingdom, we will have to start drinking the Kool-Aid and be mainstream gamers.
Oh, right.
Talk about Madden.
But
Assassin's Creed Mirage. I don't even know what setting it is.
Iraq.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Pretty reminiscent.
It's just straight up Prince of Persia.
Pretty much. Pretty reminiscent of the first Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Which took place in Israel. What? No.
Maybe. I don't know. It was somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's your podcast, Heath. If you want to talk Tears of the Kingdom, I will not stop you.
It's no, Tears of the Kingdom is the best thing that's ever been made by Nintendo, and we'll talk about it when we play it.
Yeah, from what I've seen and heard.
Are you scalding?
I'm very excited. I think I'm going to like it more than Breath of the Wild.
Oh, without question, because it's just Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild DLC, could you say?
Do that.
All right. Here's our discussion topic for the day. It's just DLC in general. Downloadable content. It's just been on my mind lately after playing stuff like Prey Moon Crash and all this Doom Eternal DLC, and we're both eagerly awaiting to play.
Silk Song.
I mean, that's a standalone game.
No, but it started as a stretch goal for the core game.
Right.
And they had to turn it from DLC into a sequel.
The scope of the project exceeded its initial pitch, right? But Case of the Golden Idol DLC has been on the brain. I've been wanting to play that. So I thought now's as good a time as ever to talk about it. And I've got a couple things to touch on. First of all, just the term itself is kind of funny, isn't it?
The most money I've ever spent on DLC is all of those Call of Duty zombie maps from middle school.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, you took exception to the term itself?
Yeah, I mean, just in a 2023 context,
It's very technical.
DLC as a term feels pretty antiquated because it's so broad as to be meaningless.
Right, it could be like wallpaper.
Downloadable content. Like every video game you could possibly play is downloadable content.
Yeah.
But the books I get on my Kindle are downloadable content.
This HDR color utility app I downloaded.
You're right. But just to define it more specifically, these are like add-ons to a full retail game that you download off the internet as an expansion of sorts. And the term came from back in the day where you wouldn't be able to download
your mom would take you to the store.
Yeah. If you wanted a new game proper, you'd have to buy it physically, and then only the little small add-ons would be downloadable. But these days, of course, every game is downloaded. In fact, my computer doesn't have a disk drive. Everything is downloaded.
Same.
So the term doesn't make a ton of sense in 2023, but it has stuck around just due to its inertia.
Yeah, you just call it premium content.
Yeah, I think maybe add-on content is maybe more accurately describing what's going on. I came up with the Chris DLC taxonomy.
Yay!
And I would like to see if
I'm so genuinely happy.
I've come up with three. I think there's 3 flavors of DLC that every piece of content is broadly categorized under. You need to let me know if I've missed anything or if you think my categories aren't legit in any way.
Okay.
Here they are. Here's the 3 flavors of DLC according to me. The first I title Variety DLC. I'll define it first. Variety DLC, you still interact with the core loop of the game as normal, except there's some new bells and whistles thrown in, some new basically content. There's more variety. Boom. The name is self-explanatory. This is what I think of.
Now you can shoot Juliana with the glue gun.
The prime example of this is fighting games. Smash Bros. Ultimate, Joker DLC. I
never saw it coming.
That's variety DLC. It doesn't change how you interact with playing Smash Bros.
For
Ultimate.
his special, he wields a gun.
That's a great line. You have a new fighter to choose from. Or Mario Kart 8, when they add new racetracks, when you still race, you're still just booting it up to race, but you have a new option now from the main menu. Devil May Cry 5, the Virgil DLC. You still play through the same Devil May Cry 5 campaign, but there's a different playable character with a different move set. It's just new variety. This is often found in strategy games as well. Total War,
Civs.
All the different civs, all the new race packs, all the new factions.
Yeah.
Total War Warhammer 2, my Tomb King playthrough. The Tomb Kings were technically DLC. They didn't ship in the base game. But I still just played the campaign as I normally would with this new faction to spice things up.
Wow, what a variety.
Yeah, exactly. So that was variety in a nutshell.
Sounds like every DLC.
Here's the distinct new type, though. This is what I've titled expansion DLC. So this is common in RPGs, I'd say. This would be The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. This would be Skyrim Dragonborn. These are often... Here's like a new section of the map we've bolted onto this open world game. Or here's a new quest line to play through.
How's that different than the Mario Kart maps?
Mario Kart maps do not interact or touch any of the... They don't interact with the base game's content.
The peas stay apart from the carrots.
Right. in Witcher, you take your character you've built by playing the main game and this custom play style you've crafted, all the items you've collected, and you go on this journey into this new world and interact with that, and you finish it. There's a distinct end to Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC. You finish the quest line, you wipe your hands of Toussaint, and maybe return back to the base game.
Baton.
Right.
I need to play it, so I know it. I can make that joke.
You can finish an expansion DLC. You don't finish
A variety DLC.
You don't finish variety DLC. It's just the variety DLC is kind of perpetually entertaining. It's just there to add.
Sometimes it's not.
Like you don't finish the new racetrack. You play it endlessly. You don't
finish a new weapon.
right.
You don't finish a V-Bucks.
You don't beat Sora and Smash. You don't hit the end credits with Sora and Smash. Maybe you make him your main, maybe you don't. He's a new option that you can interact with or not. Where expansion DLC
You don't
is.
fight back the darkness in Sora's heart.
Yeah.
Have you ever have? Never mind.
Have I
Wow,
convinced you?
we've covered both types of DLC.
I've got one more.
Not a single other type.
Oh yeah, the last one. I call it the standalone DLC. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the variety.
Moon Crash.
Prey Moon Crash. This is the type of DLC I'd argue doesn't even need to be DLC.
What was the second type again?
Expansion DLC.
Well, that's Moon Crash is.
So standalone DLC does not interact with the base game at all. In fact, you could argue it's like a sequel almost. For example, Prey Moon Crash.
Is Ancient Gods Part 2 expansion or standalone?
Ooh. Putting me on the spot.
Yeah, get fucked.
I think technically it is standalone. The only pushback I have, the one theory I came up with why standalone DLC still might need to be considered DLC, meaning you need to own the original game to buy the DLC. You can get away with not tutorializing things. So the Doom Eternal's Ancient Gods DLC, which is totally separate from the base game, kind of has the inherent assumption that you've played the game already, are familiar with its mechanics. So it throws you into the deep end immediately. No tutorials, no build-up. It's sink or swim from minute one. But otherwise, it's totally discrete. So I think technically it's standalone, but it would be a rough experience if you dove in head first. Prey Moon Crash is so standalone that when I hit play on Steam, the game, there's like a toggle. It asks me if I want to play Prey or play Moon Crash. I think it's a separate executable file. That's how separate it is.
That's fun.
Also, I thought Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battles Donkey Kong campaign, that's a good example of standalone DLC. You don't interact with the main, you don't carry any progression from the main game over at all. It's totally separate. BioShock's Burial at Sea story DLC is also discrete. Standalone DLC kind of baffles me because I figure it would sell way more if you just made it its own storefront purchasable thing, that you didn't limit it to owners of the base game.
Oh yeah, you're selling to a smaller sample size.
Right. You've created this prerequisite that need not be there.
Your customers have to already be customers.
Yes. You're inherently selling to a subset of people.
Oh, that's stupid, yeah.
Which makes me question why they happen at all. In fact, I've seen developers change their tune to it. The Dishonored to Dishonored 2 comparison, Dishonored 1 did receive standalone DLC.
Yeah, Death of the Outsider.
No, that's Dishonored 2's quote-unquote DLC.
Oh.
So Dishonored 1 got the Knife of Dunwall and the Brigmore Witches, which are like 6 new Dishonored 1 levels. Who knew there's this almost Dishonored 1 sequel?
What variety? I mean, expansion.
Standalone. And then, you need not play Dishonored 1 to play those. And then seemingly Arcane was going to do the same thing to Dishonored 2 with Death of the Outsider, but they made it its own spin-off product instead. and did not limit themselves to Dishonored 2's customer base.
And made $100 more.
Who knows? But they made more than they would have otherwise, presumably. You seem a little skeptical of the Chris taxonomy.
No, the taxonomy is rock solid. I'm trying to find
the weird edge cases.
The friggin' the missing link.
Okay. I became aware of a dead subgenre of the variety flavor. Do you know what I'm talking about if I say the multiplayer map pack DLC era? I would say this was circa like 2007 to 2012, somewhere around there.
Why would it be dead? Like if Overwatch?
Oh, no one does this anymore. So back in the day, games like Call of Duty or Halo Reach, once in a while to liven up the multiplayer suite, for like $10, there's like, oh, we made 4 new maps.
Yeah, I've bought them.
Those never happen anymore because they had an Achilles heel. They would fracture the player base. There would be the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
All these people paying for the cool new maps would struggle to find matchmaking opponents because, once again, this is a very small sliver.
It's beyond the paywall, yeah.
A sliver of the player population bought these, which means you only have a tiny amount of people that can play them. Live service games these days, they just have updates. They aren't paid DLC.
Yeah.
If Fortnite updates its map and the new chapter or whatever, it's immediately available to everyone. They don't put it behind a paywall.
Better matchmaking, yeah.
Yep. So that's why I call the multiplayer map pack DLC a dead subgenre.
Huh.
Just a trend.
Yeah.
So, can you think of DLC that might fall outside the bounds of that taxonomy? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I've been trying.
I can think about it as well.
It would have to be like a variety one that you can beat.
Yeah. I guess like a Virgil playable character. You can finish the campaign of Devil May Cry as Virgil. Mm-hmm. And then the variety is over. Yeah. I'm just going to pat myself on the back and say I did a great job.
What is the future of DLC?
All right, that's enough of general sweeping overviews. Heath, tell me. You said you spent the most DLC ever on a Call of Duty?
Call of Duty maps, yeah.
Was that like zombie maps? Or
yeah.
Was that your earliest interaction with DLC? Or
my earliest...
Does anything predate it?
I think Fable 2 tried to sell me something, but I didn't give a crap about that. That is my earliest interaction with DLC. Because Pokemon didn't have any.
No.
For me.
I think my first, at least the first one that left an impression, was the original Red Dead Redemption. Undead Nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Undead Nightmare was sick.
You played it?
I played it.
Oh.
I haven't touched it in over a decade, so my memories are a bit hazy. But that was an ambitious piece of DLC. It blew up at the time.
Yeah.
Just to recontextualize like the entire map of the game as this B-movie horror zombie outbreak scenario. Such an interesting idea. And that's in stark contrast to Red Dead Redemption 2, which received no single-player DLC at all.
Because it's hard enough to just finish that.
True. That is very true.
It was hard enough to just finish Red Dead 1.
Red Dead 1 was no short game, that's for sure. Yeah, Undead Nightmare was a high watermark to start my DLC journey. Mm-hmm. In general, I think DLC is often underwhelming. I'm of the opinion the bangers are the exceptions, not the rules.
Right.
They're kind of an afterthought. It's something for the development team to do shortly after the game is shipped.
I brought Frostpunk DLC.
Yeah, the last autumn or something.
Yep.
Did you play it?
And they were standalone.
Despite DLC maybe not having the most sterling of reputations, I thought it would be fun to both count down, I don't know, our 3 favorite DLCs, 3 or 4.
Yep, you start.
Left a big impression. Okay. I've got top 5 here, but I'll be quick. My number 5 is actually a piece of Mass Effect 3 DLC you've not played.
I guess I've technically bought that.
Yeah, with these like Game of the Year editions, sometimes you don't even realize you're playing DLC.
Yeah.
You love that Batarian asteroid mission.
Those
yeah.
Batarians.
Mass Effect 3 Citadel, what a piece of awesome content.
I'll take your word for it.
I cannot wait to hear your impressions. It's a lot more lighthearted than the rest of Mass Effect 3. It's like a fun, jovial send-off.
Reunion.
There's lots of callbacks, lots of fan favorite references. And it's one last time an excuse to get the entire ensemble crew back together and just have fun before.
You really do have some rose-tinted N7 helmet when you look back at that.
What do you mean? What do you mean rose tinted?
You look, it's nostalgic.
Oh yeah,
just super fond of
it's nostalgic, but it was nostalgic even my first time playing it while I was in the thick of it. It's a great send off, and I think you'll agree. Yeah, I think you're gonna agree with me. We'll see. Heath, what about you?
My DLC pick has gotta be. I mean, just you think of volume. Poland was not in the base game of Civilization 5. That's a DLC civ.
A faction.
As far as a number of hours.
Are you like a Poland main?
Dude, if you're gonna pop in Civilization 5, Poland's the way to go.
What leader is it?
Casimir the second.
Okay.
He gets a free social policy every time you get a social policy.
My lack of Civ 5 experience is showing.
It cascades so hard. He's so OP.
Okay. Is he like a recommended beginner faction these days?
I mean, Firaxis, yeah. A recommended beginner faction would probably be like George Washington, because his units have greater visibility, so you can like see the bad things coming from further away.
Okay.
It's also cheaper to buy tiles with him. But Poland, as far as like DLC lifetime hours played, that's the few and far between.
Very
Beat
interesting.
Poland in Civilization 5. I've put hundreds of hours into that DLC.
That's fair.
Which is, yeah. I put more hours into that DLC than I have other full games.
Yeah, quantity and quality.
Yeah.
Wait, was that
Two more.
All right. Right above that, my next one is actually, maybe this is recency bias. Prey Moon Crash really impressed me.
Of course.
It was so good, dude.
Oh my gosh.
I just spoke about it last episode. I won't reiterate here, but
he calls it a standalone because he's constantly giving a standing ovation to Prey Moon Crash.
It was just,
and he's alone.
To take the fundamental mechanics of Prey and put it in an entirely new structure that works so well. An immersive sim roguelike. Who knew that's what the doctor ordered? I loved it.
I knew that.
Yeah, I guess I'm not.
I'm the doctor.
And your diagnosis
is fun.
Fun. What about you, Heath?
Moving on to number 2 for Heath, which has gotta be. Here's the issue: is because I hate microtransactions. I haven't put a cent into Marvel Snap. I've been put a cent into Dead by Daylight.
Right. Now, I would draw a distinction between a microtransaction and a DLC. Microtransaction, I feel like you're buying some in-game currency, you're opening a loot box, where DLC is like a discrete piece of content you buy and consume.
Tell that to... I'm positive I can think of something. I guess you're right.
Like, I don't count...
Imagine if Guarma was a microtransaction. Be huge.
Red Dead 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Guarma chapter was microtransaction.
That's DLC you can leave on the shelf.
Yes.
It's the weakest chapter.
It's the weakest chapter.
I don't consider like the booster packs of Hearthstone I opened as DLC.
Understood. Heath's second favorite DLC is gonna be... I have better luck looking at my receipts.
If I name...
My Wi-Fi's down because I have light.
Yeah, we're in the Stone Age, but at least it's bright. All right, I'll name my next one because I know you played it, but I don't know if it'll be on your list, actually. I gave you my number 5, my number 4. My number 3 is actually Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. Man, I forget where you...
I would rather sit with friends than play that standalone. Oh, wait, it's an expansion.
That one was hard to categorize because it is integrated in the main game. You can hop between the two, but that's not the way we played it because we approached it after finishing the game. So my experience with it was kind of standalone. I was just playing Echoes of the Eye, but it could have been more integrated had I not already played the game. And it does affect the ending with the owl people. So I think technically it's expansion.
Yeah, only by...
Yeah, by a technicality.
Yeah, only because there's no like menu GUI that can jump you into it.
Right. In practice, yeah, you need to interact with the clues at the museum at the start.
Yeah.
In practice, it feels more standalone.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. And it's also one of the best parts of Outer Wilds, so that's why I love it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, back to me.
Back to you.
Back to Heath. I technically bought LA Noire DLC
Okay.
because I bought a special thing. Wait, is director's cut of Death Stranding is a standalone?
That's an interesting case because can you take base game Death Stranding and convert it into director's cut version?
No,
Then is it even DLC or is it a new product?
it's a new product. It's
But
got the new product that got the old product in it.
It's towing the line. It was just distributed in a weird way, I guess.
It's a new product the same way RoboCop is a new person after Alex Murphy got turned into RoboCop. You've never seen RoboCop.
I have not.
Neither have I, but
That's besides the point. Did anything really stand out to you from like Mass Effect 2? But you don't necessarily know what was DLC and what wasn't.
Kasumi Zaid.
Yeah. Lair of the Shadow Broker.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean that the implications for that were super fun.
Of course.
This is like DLC is only 10% of my Disco Elysium Final Cut.
Final Cut.
It's a free update.
It's a free update.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of counts.
DLC, but the cost is 0.
But the cost is 0. And I had a similar thought about Into the Breach Advanced Edition. The
Why?
same deal. Like they add a bunch of new content, but it was a free update.
What do we make of this?
Right.
My Steam receipts from 2014 don't tell me what game it was. Or no, it does. Okay, Gary's Mod. I bought Gary's Mod. That's great.
You are doing some hardcore research right now.
Well, because it's like of the 90% of my purchases on Steam are full games. Only like 10% could be counted as DLC, like the Civ leaders.
Yeah. And sometimes the DLC you do play is like folded into the game, as the case is in Mass Effect.
Yeah. I've already mentioned everything that
That you
comes to
cares
mind.
to mention.
Yeah.
Then I'll just say my last
I
one.
abstain.
It's just The Witcher 3 DLC.
Yeah, blood and boogers.
Hearts of Stone and Blood and Wine,
Yeah.
those two. They're just crazy good, arguably of a higher quality than the base game, which is saying a lot. Blood and Wine in particular is a crazy value proposition. That it adds it's like a 40-hour game of DLC.
So much variety.
It's an expansion,
Okay.
but it serves as a sequel to The Witcher in The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Bigger than most. I spent more time with
You played it
that.
after you beat the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great epilogue final chapter.
I won't be able to access it until I beat the game.
It's not required. There's like a recommended level. I think that's the only thing gating your access to it. And speaking of, hey, is it an expansion? Is it standalone? Those are actually weird examples because if you wanted to, from the main menu of The Witcher 3, you can say, I want to play just Blood and Wine. Give me a prefabricated character that's like ready to go. So you need not play the base game to access them.
It's just Geralt level 30.
Here's like your level 30 off the factory Geralt.
Yeah.
Go wild. Which is cool for accessibility and letting more people play.
Yeah.
But it also just begs the question, it's huge. It's 40, 50 hours. You could have just made that a whole new game, charged $60, and people would have eaten it up.
Yeah.
But they just made it DLC, charged at the time $20. These days you get it for a pittance, nothing. And what a value it is. So coming off of that, I'm super excited to see. Remember when I called the Cyberpunk upcoming DLC Liberty City?
Yeah.
It's actually called Phantom Liberty. And it's not out yet.
Right.
Which leads me to kind of my final thought on the topic of DLC. The trend of huge gaps in release schedules between when the game comes out and when the DLC arrives. Cyberpunk 2077 is a 2020 game that presumably has DLC coming sometime in the future. We don't have a release date yet, and 3 years have gone by. That's ridiculous. So we've reached the point where we'd expect a sequel or something, but it's going to be DLC. Weird business practice. The other example is like Elden Ring is going to get some very big DLC, and that game's already a year and a half old, and we don't have a date, which just, I would assume, to release content, they're spending, obviously, CD Projekt Red has put a lot of time and development resources into whatever this Phantom Liberty DLC is, but to sell that to just a subset of the consumer base so far after the game came out, it seems like they're shooting themselves in the foot.
The cyberfoot,
And their cyber appendage. And maybe that just speaks to the fact that video game dev cycles have ballooned to gargantuan degrees, and it takes a long time to make solid video game content.
But they still sell like gangbusters. They just could sell more if they were standalone.
And released in a more timely manner when there's more hype around the game. Like, in what world is Cyberpunk 2077 still in the zeitgeist?
2016.
When
it was first announced.
Yeah. By the time this DLC comes out, when this DLC releases, it will be 2077.
No. Good session topic, Chris.
Oh, thanks, Heath. I try. You ready to hit those closing statements as we wrap up this podcast?
Yes. I'm just going to be thinking of more DLC.
That's what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Well, play Citadel by next episode and tell me if it's not the best.
I do need to finish Mass Effect 3.
You're getting within striking distance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have not returned to any of the Leviathan stuff, right?
Oh, I did. Well, I mean, I went back to the lab,
but you still can't find it?
No, I hit like boop, 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 and then it was like, oh, we found an anomaly.
Okay.
And I was like, I've got out of there, and I went to Tachanka.
Gotcha.
And that's all that was. I hit the go button on that.
Cool. What will you be doing the rest of the day?
Dude, I gotta put my internet back online.
Yeah.
And then Bailey's not coming to game night, is she?
I didn't plan on it.
Okay.
Usually you mention if she is.
Age of Steam for her
would be an age of
mean thing to do to a novice.
An unknowing novice, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were playing the moon this night.
Exciting.
Which is...
Do they name it like Crater 1, Crater 2?
Possibly. It's one of the maps you printed for me.
I didn't take it.
And
a look.
its gimmick is, since we're on the spherical moon, it wraps around. So if you go off one edge of the oval...
it's
Pac-Man. It's Pac-Man.
Okay.
And this railroad construction game. So yeah, look forward to that mind-melting model.
I've ate nothing today.
You should eat sufficient calories before age of steam.
Yeah.
Because the brain burns a lot of calories. And the moon's going to be a brain burner. Well, that's all I've got. Once again, you can write us an email at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com. We'll read every single one.
This has been episode 87.
That's right. Stay tuned for more episodes coming to a podcast feed near you. And see you next time.